Welcome back to the driver's seat, my Triple E drivers. All you doing? There we go. Presently, we are on the Eastern Main Road in El Dorado, Trinidad, heading eastwards. As we drive through El Dorado today, it's hard to imagine that much of this community once formed part of one of the largest sugar estates in Trinidad. The story of El Dorado begins long before the neighborhood itself existed. During the Spanish colonial period, this entire area was part of a vast agricultural district centered around the old village of Tacarigua. Before European settlement, the region was inhabited by indigenous peoples, including the Nipuyo, who lived across the fertile plains stretching eastward towards Arouca. By the late 1700s, however, the indigenous population had largely been displaced, and the land was increasingly being converted into plantations. Following the cedula of population in 1783, French planters, freed people of color, and enslaved Africans began arriving in greater numbers. Sugar cultivation expanded rapidly, and large estates emerged across central Trinidad. One of the most important was the Orange Grove Estate, whose lands covered thousands of acres and stretched across what are now Tacarigua, El Dorado, Trin City, and surrounding communities. For much of the 19th century, Orange Grove was a major economic engine. Fields of sugarcane covered the landscape in every direction. Workers labored in the cane fields. Carts transported harvested cane to the factory, and the rhythms of plantation life shaped everyday existence throughout the district. One reminder of this heritage is the El Dorado Shiv Mandir on Cora Royal Road. Established in 1912 by Hindu workers and families connected to the Orange Grove estate, it stands one of the community's oldest surviving institutions and reflects the strong influence of Indian culture in the area. The name El Dorado itself is interesting. Most people know El Dorado as a legendary city of gold, sought by Spanish explorers in South America. Sir Walter Raleigh famously searched for this mythical land during his expeditions in the region in the late 16th century. While the exact reason the estate received the name is unclear, it almost certainly reflects the fascination that colonial settlers had with the famous legend of Untold Riches. As we leave El Dorado, remember, this town's history is Trinidad's history. In a few moments, we will look at the history of Tacarigua. The St. Mary's Children's Home is to the left. This is the Macoya River. We are in the Tacarigua environs now. Today we are having a brief look at the history of Tacarigua. I am not a historian, so do please take note of this disclaimer. So viewer discretion is advised. However, what I am about to share with you was well researched online, but still, As we cruise through Tacarigua on the Eastern Main Road, it's easy to see just another busy east-west corridor town. Maxi taxis, parlors, traffic, the usual Trini hustle. But slow down for a moment, because this road beneath our wheels is older than you think. Much older. Tacarigua itself is Amerindian, part of the Carib language family, easily recognized by that characteristic silver car. The name even has a parallel on the Venezuelan mainland, where a lake carries the same name. A reminder that Trinidad and Venezuela were once part of the same connected world of indigenous peoples, long before any European ever arrived. According to historian Professor Selwyn Cudjoe, the name Tacarigua appears for the first time in a historical record in 1595. Just 3 years after St. Joseph was founded as Trinidad's first capital, making it one of the oldest settlements on the island, over 400 years old. Under Spanish rule, Tacarigua became one of 4 encomiendas established on the island, which was a brutal system where Amerindians were stripped of their culture, converted to Catholicism, and forced into labor on Spanish-controlled land. This town was officially known as San Pablo de Tacarigua back then. These 4 encomiendas, Acanagua, while viewed in the last one, Acri, Aricagua, which is now Sawa, Arouca, which became Arouca, Tacarigua, and Quora, now Orange Grove, were linked by an ancient Amerindian path that today forms part of the very eastern main road we are driving on right now. By 1785, the Amerindians of the established Lipuyo encomienda village of San Pablo de Tacarigua were relocated further east to Arima, where the mission of Santa Rosa was established. With the Amerindians gone, a new chapter began, one driven by sugar, slavery, and colonial wealth. By 1802, Tacarigua had become one of the richest villages in Trinidad, boasting 14 sugar factories, the 4th largest number of sugar mills on the entire island. It also had light rum distilleries, 2 coffee mills, and even a steam engine. The most powerful name associated with Tacarigua's sugar era was William Harding Burnley, an American-born planter who became the richest man in Trinidad. His Orange Grove estate in Tacarigua was the largest on the island, covering 2,600 acres and worked by over 200 enslaved people. In 1821, Burnley built his mansion right here in Tacarigua, approximately 100 yards south of the Eddie Hart Pavilion. According to a Newsday report by Paula Lindo of 16 June 2024, which quoted Professor Cudjoe as saying, When Burnley came here, he thieved all the people money and built a tapir house. The walls were stronger than anything else and ecologically friendly. He acquired 13 plantations all over the country and became one of the richest men in the Caribbean. When slavery ended, in terms of compensation, Burnley got the most money and was still making money because of the sugar production. He said the only remaining physical memory of Burnley's estate was a coolie pistache tree. Kojo said St. Mary's Village was established first after emancipation, followed by Paradise, which was predominantly Hindu, and Dinsley, which was predominantly Muslim. In his book, Preserving the Tacarigua Savannah, Respecting Our Heritage, published in 2013, when slavery was abolished in 1833, Burnley received nearly £50,000 in compensation, making him the single largest recipient of slave compensation on the island. End of quote. After Burnley died in 1850, the Orange Grove lands changed hands and eventually fell under the control of the Trinidad Sugar Estate, headquartered in London. By the 1850s, the area was dotted with estates: El Dorado, Paradise, Laurel Hill, Macoya, and Garden City. But not everything in the 19th century Tacarigua was about sugar and slavery. Around 1850, some of the first mosques in the entire region were built right here in Tacarigua, a testament to the arrival of Indian indentured laborers who came to work the estates after emancipation and who planted deep roots in this community that remain to this day. The St. Mary's Anglican Church was built in 1843, and the St. Mary's Children's Home was established in 1857. Originally built to care for Indian children who had been orphaned on the treacherous voyage across the Kalapani, the Black Waters, to Trinidad. Today, Tacarigua is a thriving multi-ethnic community on the East-West Corridor, governed by the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. It sits east of Tunapuna, north of Trinity, and west of Arouca, on the banks of the Tacarigua River. It is also home to the Racket Sports Center, a multi-sport facility that has hosted local and international tournaments in tennis, table tennis, and badminton, including the 2018 Pan Am Badminton Championships. And if you need one more reason to remember Tacarigua, this is the birthplace of West Indian cricket superstar Kieron Pollard, born here in 1987. One of the greatest limited overs cricketers the Caribbean has ever produced, and he is from right here. From Amerindian settlement to Spanish encomienda, from sugar plantations to mosques, from colonial mansions to cricket legends, Tacarigua is proof that Trinidad, even the most ordinary-looking road, carries extraordinary history beneath it. Now getting back to the news report quoting Professor Cudjoe. In his book, Cudjoe said the St. Mary's Anglican Church was built in 1843. Although the old church was destroyed and the present church constructed in the 1920s. And the St. Mary's Children's Home was built in 1857 for Indian children who have been orphaned on the voyage across the Kalapani, Black Sea, to Trinidad. He said Eccles, whose tombstone is in one of the churches, built the orphanage along with Bullen-Lee's son. The St. Mary's AC Church AC School at the east of the Holy Ground was first built in 1837. It was called the Cocoa House. With the assistance of the apprentices, as the formerly enslaved became known after 1834, and relocated to its present site in 1954. It stood in front of the St. Mary's Rectory, built in 1841. Cudjoe said that the Tacarigua Presbyterian School, previously the Canadian Mission Indian School, was built in 1884. The news report quotes Professor Cudjoe as saying that the land the St. Mary's Anglican Church Hall stands on was a madrasa ceremony. Let me repeat that. The news report quotes Professor Cudjoe as saying that the land the St. Mary's Anglican Church Hall stands on was a madrasa cemetery. Quoting Professor Cudjoe, my friend Michael Kangali, in March 2023, he wrote to me to tell me, Selwyn, it was my paternal grandfather, Biro Sagat Pasad Nanan, was the last person to be buried on this ground. His grave is at the corner of the old train line and the river. We have to begin by respecting our people and respecting sacred ground. I want to suggest we should place a plaque on this ground to recognize the fact that it was a cemetery of the Madrasi Indians. And when we come here, we also stand on sacred ground. And we should do that because it's the correct thing to do. End of quote. Over the years, the savannah and its surrounding areas have produced sportsmen of national note, including Ulrich Buggy Haynes, Eddie Hart, Keith Achonk, and Ellis Puss Achonk. Noted artist, teacher, and director of culture Mahmoud Farouk Aladdin. MP Aladdin was born in Tacarigua in 1919. He played a major role in the expansion of art education and was an important influence on a wide range of artists. Some of these names you may have never heard before, but hopefully you will try to dig deeper into our history and these names. So folks, that concludes a brief history of Tacarigua as seen through the Newsday, Wikipedia, and other online resources. Newsday newspaper isn't around these days, but it seems to crop up whenever I try to research a topic. So kudos to them and also to Professor Cudjoe for the information. If you can, obtain a copy of his book to delve deeper into our history. So once again, my Triple E drivers, thank you for accompanying me on this trip. Hopefully you learned something new about the island of Trinidad, as I certainly did. Until the next video, bye for now.
शालिया ए सबूने आनी